Um, so, you know, one common question is like, can we even do that? Is that even possible? And there's, of course, a lot that goes into that. I'm not going to be able to talk about that in like 2 minutes on the slide, but a couple of things to think about at least are, for one thing, through 99% of human history, that humans, as we know it, Homo sapiens, have existed. We did not live under capitalism. Capitalism is a completely new thing, a completely new type of domination in society and all that has only existed for the last few hundred years. And so, you know, it started, but it means that we can live without it because our ancestors did. We can find ways around it. We can create a new type of society. And you know, one book I like a lot, for example, is this book Mutual Aid, which talks about kind of evolutionary pressures about, you know, what pushes evolution in nature, that different species will evolve. And kind of this right-wing concept is they focus on competition, and they say evolution is driven by competition. It's all about like beating each other and hurting each other and all this stuff. And that's not actually true. When you not to say the competition never exists, but when you look at the science behind evolution, what actually drives especially complex, thoughtful life forms like humans is actually a lot of mutualism and cooperation and helping each other and working together. Humans survive better when we work together. We don't survive when we fight each other. So that's another thing.
We wouldn't have gotten to the point where we could even be in large enough societies to fight each other had we not been collective, right?
Exactly.
The proto-humans, the earliest humans, the only way they could survive in an extraordinarily dangerous world in which they were not strong or fast. You know, all they were was smart, and they could stand upright. The only thing that allowed them to survive and become, you know, for better or worse, the apex species on the planet was cooperation. We never would have gotten to the point of competing because we would have lost the competition with predators. We would have lost the competition probably even with other hominids that were stronger, that were faster, you know, but in the long run, because we formed societies, right? We formed our tribes, we formed our villages, we grew and expanded all through, you know, cooperation. And certainly their hierarchy gets in there and exploitation gets in there and all of that. But without cooperation, without the creation of society, which is cooperation kind of penultimately, you know, without that, there's no, you know, there's no room for competition because we aren't at a point where we're able to compete against each other because we're competing against the rest of the world. As opposed to now dominating it. Like I said, better or worse, it's what's happened.
Yeah. So, you know, it's essentially built into our genes to cooperate with each other. And we feel that every day when you meet your neighbors, you know, you trade things with them and you help them out and things like that. And maybe not all, okay, maybe some of them annoy you or something like that. But generally speaking, you know, we all have this drive to help each other.
And the same reaction, people that, you know, espouse this reactionary idea that competition is central to human civilization, almost universally, in my experience, complain about the collapse of the neighborhood and the community.
Right.
That we don't know our neighbors anymore is really a core part of what's wrong with society. But then they turn around and out the other side of their mouth talk about how competition, not society, is what's important. Right. Yeah. So even the people who, you know, are using this idea of greed and again, or, you know, it goes back to in competition, see that the breakdown of that social, you know, the centralness of social interaction is a major problem in our society that is being amplified and fueled by capitalism. Because the more alienated we are, the more separate we are, the more othered we are with each other, the easier it is to divide us, the easier it is to exploit and oppress us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think in some ways, when we talk about creating a socialist society, what we're talking about is restoring that sense of community and cooperation and being able to work with each other and make sure that everyone is taken care of. And now that compared to 10,000 years ago or whatever, we have so much understanding of science and medicine and all that didn't used to exist. We can take care of people even better, and there's really like no reason at all not to be doing that. So it's retooling society for that. So for one thing, it's part of our human nature, I think, loosely using that term, to be very cooperative with each other, and to help each other. So we're not talking about something new. This is what humans like to do. However, since capitalism hasn't existed before in history, we're kind of learning as we go how do we rebuild community after it has collapsed under capitalism, as we have been alienated under capitalism. So we also shouldn't expect socialism to be something that like it happens on Thursday and then we have socialism. This is going to be an ongoing process for probably a very long time. If it ever ends, it might just be kind of a forever thing, that we are always trying to better ourselves. We're always trying to better society. We're always trying to find new ways to improve ourselves and take care of each other. We learn more about medicine, for example, and we have more ideas in the future. So it's important to keep that in mind too, that when we say that we're supporting a change to a socialist system, it's not going to be like you pass this bill on Thursday and then it happens. This is an ongoing process of building community, trying things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and working together cooperatively to continually improve.
Yeah, it's it's one of the areas where I am very Marxist, and that I don't believe, and I differ with a lot of old school Greens. I don't believe there's a peace, love, and happiness, utopia at the end of the tunnel. If there's two of us, we're going to have some issues we need to work out, and that's what society is, right? To get to this zero conflict, and conflict is necessary for growth. Mm-hmm. To get to this point, this envisioned society where there's just nothing but harmony. That means there's no individualism. That means there's a lot of things that are really important. It's just a homogenous, gestalt society. So I think it's really important that we understand this process. And I think next month we're going to talk a whole lot about things like precarity, right? People want a 100% answer to what things are going to look like. And the truth that we need to be really upfront with is we don't know. We're going to try some things. Some things are going to work. Some things won't. Right. And the same is true. It's when I look at capitalism today, we've got a 100% failure rate for most people. Right. No matter what they do, it's failing people. But people are really tied to what they know. So they will hold on to that 100% failure rate, even if there was something that had a 50% failure rate, because it might fail. And they don't know what that'll look like. So next week, I think, or next month, we'll talk a lot about precarity. We'll talk a lot about, how to organize, and we're talking about neighborhoods. It's like your first door knock should be your neighbor, mm-hmm. And then spread out from there. So,
yeah, definitely things to look forward to. So those are some things to keep in mind. That
it's so hard not to go off into next month.
I know. So, but those are some things to keep in mind.
Organizing to
mm-hmm.
achieve this, we need to organize. So it's hard to segregate them out and keep saying we'll talk about that next month.
I know what you mean. There's just so much to it, but
we're already an hour in.
yeah. We don't want to get too off track here. We don't want to keep you too long. So, but yeah, right. So these are some things to keep in mind, that a socialist society is possible, and it's up to us to organize for it. So think about it over the next month until Organizing 101 comes out. But in the meantime, some more food for thought is that while we're trying to figure out the best path forward, one of the best ways we can do that is by looking at the successes and failures of history. What have past socialist movements done that was successful, and maybe not so successful, and what can we learn from those movements about our green socialist movement today, under today's circumstances?